I'm Matthew Knowles, and you're watching The Red Booth.
Hello, happy Halloween, everybody. This is Kimberly Q. I am the host of The Red Booth Show. And on this weekend's episode, I have Matthew Knowles, who's an actor that is coming over from China. He's actually an American, but he's become very famous in China. And he's in this huge movie called ASURA, which is totally epic. All sorts of visual effects and an amazing story. And he's here to tell us all about it. So come and join us. So, hey, how's it going?
Great, yeah.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
This is a really big deal, actually, you guys, because you are the star of one of the biggest movies that has ever been made in China.
It's a pretty cool film. Pretty epic. It's the way I describe it.
Yeah, it looks pretty epic. I mean, this is just crazy special effects, crazy 3D. I mean, I'm sure you have things that are live action, like they built the stuff like real. Yeah. And then also CGI. Yeah. So.
Yeah. One of the cool things about ASURA is they like everything that they could possibly film in real life, they did.
That's
so
awesome.
they did a lot of VFX because you had to, but all the stuff like a lot of the flying, fighting, and everything like that, they like actually literally did. And it was either the actors or like stunt guys. Kind of, but like on an epic scale. So, for instance, we were in the Himalayas, and there was like cables going across the tops of two mountains, and it was like 300 meters high. What? And the first day I showed up, there were like 15 people flying through the air, fighting. You know, and they had like teams of people, like hundreds of people, like pulling on cables to control them going like left and right, up and down. And we were.
Did they have a net? Did they have a safety net?
Oh no, of course not.
What?
No, I mean it was safe, but you don't need a safety net for that. Hopefully, you know, they were all secured in.
Right.
But we'd be underneath in the valley, like having these big epic battles, and they'd be like flying around the air behind us fighting. And then we'd have our like acting scenes in there, and people would fly behind us, and yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is so huge. I mean, you guys need to check out this trailer because it is quite impressive. You can kind of get a feel for what this movie is like, and it has some of the flying scenes in it. So I'm gonna just show that to them really quick.
Do it.
Okay, cool. Here, check it out. This is ASURA. Wow, okay, this is an amazing movie. I mean, it looks, like you said, epic. I mean, I can't even believe that you're actually sitting in my little set right now because you've been like surrounded by all these amazing sets for so long. So
yeah, well, you know, it's good to have variety in your life, and this is a pretty cool booth, if I must say so myself. Wow.
Thank you.
Look at that, James Dean. Well, I'm honored. This is
Well, you know, have to represent for America.
Yeah. For real. Oh, is that Elvis?
Yes, and Marlon Brando.
Yes.
We have to have them
Marilyn
all.
Monroe.
That's right.
Classic Americans.
Yes. That's all the diner booth we have to offer for you. So when you first got this role, this was a huge role for you, and I know you weren't even actually starting off in acting. You were a football player, is that right?
Yeah, in college I played football at a school called Clemson, and I played defensive end.
And
Yeah.
Okay.
And so my dreams at the time were to play in the NFL. And I got injured. My knees got injured senior year, and it put it just ended any hopes that I had of possibly going to the NFL. And that's when I ended up deciding I wanted to go somewhere in the world and help people. So I had an old football buddy who was in backwoods China, teaching, like volunteer teaching, kind of like the Peace Corps.
Yeah.
And he called me up and said, "Hey, you want to come out here for a year?" And I said, "Sure, I'll do it." And then I went out
such a
there,
wild
and
adventure
it
thing to
changed my
do.
life. Yeah, yeah.
And you were in St. Louis?
No, I grew up in South Carolina, in
South-
Greenville.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, Southern boy.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you got this call from your friend, and
Uh-huh.
you're like, come out to China.
Yeah, yeah. He knew I was looking to go somewhere in the world and help people for a year, and I had actually thought about doing the Peace Corps.
Yeah, that's
and-
amazing, that kind of work, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, something about it's very, very fulfilling, and I think something about helping others that helps you the most in life. So,
Definitely.
yeah.
Well, were you still injured when you went there in the beginning?
No, I had 3 surgeries my senior year. So my knees were fixed, but I just wasn't the same as I was before. I couldn't run as fast, and I could just tell it was time for me to move on with my life. Yeah.
Wow, that's a huge, huge shift. I'm sorry that happened, obviously.
It turned out to be the best thing that
That's
ever
true.
happened to me.
That's true, because then you wouldn't have been in this whole new career.
Exactly. It set me on the path that led me to where I am now, and I'm forever thankful that I got injured.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
Always look on the bright side, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, we have to take a quick break.
Okay.
We'll be right back with Matthew Knowles. And welcome back to the Red Booth Show. I'm here with actor Matthew Knowles. Okay, so you were going to go to China. You were going to maybe go work in the Peace Corps, and off you went.
Yeah. So I
Right.
went there for a year commitment. It turned into 2. I learned Mandarin.
That's crazy. That's
yeah.
a very hard language to learn.
It is. It is. But I spent 2 years in one of the poorest parts of China where nobody could speak English, and so I
You
really
had to.
yeah I had to if I wanted to eat or if I wanted to make friends.
Can you say something in Chinese?
你想我说什么?
Whoa! I don't know what you said, but
Yeah.
it sounds cool.
Yeah. But
What-
basically, I had to learn Mandarin, and that is really what changed my life. I learned Mandarin, and then a couple of years later, I started acting in China, just as a part-time job.
They must have thought you were like a giant over there. I mean, you're 6'5" or
Yeah, 6'4", yeah.
6'4"? Okay. I knew somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And I mean, generally speaking, the population there is not so tall, right?
Right, right. Yeah, especially where I was in southwest China, they're shorter than in the northeast where Beijing is. There's a lot of taller people.
Interesting.
But yeah, I mean, I stood head and shoulders above most people.
So you must have became like a quick legend there. They're
Well,
like, the man who's very tall.
It helped me to stand out.
Yeah.
No pun intended, but it did. It helps to have some sort of thing that separates you from people. And when I started doing acting work there, being taller and being not Chinese but speaking Mandarin just kind of separated me from most everyone else, and that's that's kind of what gave me the in to get some really great opportunities over there.
Whoa. What
Yeah.
was your first acting role in China?
My first acting role in China, I was on this local sitcom in Sichuan province called Fat Sister's Store. Yeah, it was a very stereotypical role. I was like the boyfriend of the main girl who loved China and really wanted to impress everyone with his Mandarin skills and just kind of made a fool out of himself, thinking he knew everything, but really not.
And you were playing an American?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was an American. The funny thing about that is at the time, my Mandarin was not good enough yet. And I remember the script they gave me, I literally just memorized everything on it, and I didn't
But you
know
didn't know
half
what it
of
was
what I was
saying,
saying.
right.
Yeah. But I had good Mandarin pronunciation, so
That would be
it
hard,
sounded
though.
like I knew what I was saying, but I really just no clue.
But you wouldn't have known, am I supposed to be angry when I say this? Or am I supposed to be you're just saying the words?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
that's
so it wasn't the
crazy.
best performance. So I'll admit to that. But it was a start, and it kind of it gave me, at least in China, the you know, it instilled this passion, or I discovered a passion that I had that I didn't know that I had. But even before that, I had done a role in Malaysia. It was like a Hollywood Malaysian co-production movie called Vikingdom, and I had a really small role in that as a Viking warrior. That was my first taste of ever being in a movie.
So what, did they just like find you somewhere and they're like, hey, you should be in this Viking movie?
Well, that's a story in itself. But I went to Singapore on a
Really?
break. 1 week turned into 3 months during a summer, and during the time I got signed to a modeling agency, and then I
In Singapore?
In Singapore, I got this HTC campaign, and then I got cast in this Viking movie. And a few months later, after I went back to China, I flew back and filmed for a couple of weeks, and then went back to China. Yeah, so that was my first experience with film and entertainment in general.
It's so wild because, you know, a lot of people come to the U.S.
Yeah.
They come to Los Angeles
Yeah.
to get into the industry.
Right.
But you like went far, far away.
Yeah.
You know, and you broke
Yeah.
and you got into the industry over there.
Yeah, and at the time, people were asking me all the time, like, "Oh, you're gonna go to LA? You're gonna do this?" And I was like, "No, I'm not gonna do that. You know, I'm just doing this part time." And but slowly, I really developed a passion for it, and I was like, you know, I should go back to school for this. Like, I really want to really learn how to do this and really be able to do this as my life. I think this is what I'm passionate about.
Wow.
And yeah.
So that was your first taste, was the Viking one.
Viking movie.
And then you're like, this is cool. So
Yeah.
I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
So then after that, you went back to,
I went to Sichuan. After 2 years in Guizhou, I moved to Sichuan province.
which is where?
It's in southwest China as well, but it's kind of like the cultural capital of Western China. So it's where the pandas are. There's a big panda base there. It's where
Cool.
Szechuan food is from. But yeah, it's a great place. And while I was there, I got signed to an agency as an actor, and I started doing local productions.
Or were you speaking like pretty fluently by then?
Yeah, it was all in Mandarin by that point.
This is so wild. I love this story. It's so cool.
Yeah. And then not long after that, I was in Sichuan for 2 years, and then I got offered a scholarship to the Beijing Film Academy from the Chinese government, where I was the first ever non-Asian to study acting. So it was, you know, all in Chinese, and, you know, the Chinese method and everything like that.
There's a special Chinese acting method?
Well, everywhere in the world has their own kind of way that they do acting. You know, every culture has their own way that they communicate, right? Every language is different, every culture is different, and acting is different,
Right.
depending on where you are. You know, there's difference between the British way and the American way in general.
Interesting.
Yeah. But
Okay.
The Chinese way is much, much different.
All right, we have to take another break.
Okay.
We'll be right back with actor Matthew Knowles. And welcome back to the Red Booth Show. I'm here with actor Matthew Knowles. Okay, so you were talking about how you were in the Beijing Film Academy and you were the only American to ever study there.
Yeah, I was the first non-Asian to study acting at Beijing Film Academy.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
That's proper way of saying it. You were the
Yeah.
first non-Asian. Okay. And so you said that they have a different way of, you know, a different method. Which makes sense, obviously. Every culture has a different way of, you know, entertaining and stuff.
Right.
What do
Yeah.
what do you think is the difference that you learned there while you were teaching or learning their method of acting?
Yeah. Well, to be honest, it's something that's very hard to explain
Yeah.
because it's something that's very embodied. It's something that as you learn a culture and you learn the way that they communicate, you kind of it's in you, in your body. So it's in like the inflection of your voice and the way that you communicate and the way that you move. So kind of being in that environment and learning it there is kind of something that I think is necessary. But yeah, there's just so many different things that it would be different, you know, and there's lots of cases where you could, you know, do a scene in English that that people might laugh at, and you do a scene in Chinese and you might end up like crying in it, you know, and just the reactions to what actually happens are different.
That's because obviously the culture in China is completely
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
This is kind of interesting because, well, my dad was staying in China for a few years, and he would sort of try to explain it a bit to me.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously you liked it there and you stayed there for a while.
Yeah.
So what was it about the culture there that you?
Well, it started out as just an adventure.
Yeah.
It was so different, and I didn't care that everything was just crazy weird because it was the adventure. And then I just started to feel like it was like a part of me. I just started to feel like, like in my heart, like, oh man, I feel like part Chinese somehow. I don't like, I feel like it's grown on me.
Do people actually think you're part Chinese?
Yeah, a lot of times
Yeah.
people think I'm, half or quarter or something like that. Unfortunately, I'm not. I kind of wish I was, but I did a DNA test and I don't have any Chinese in me. But I do have a lot of connections to China in my past, in my family history. My great aunt died after being in a concentration camp in China during World War II.
Whoa.
And my great uncle was in the Flying Tigers, who volunteered to fly planes in China during World War II.
Whoa.
So yeah, I have a little bit of history there, and part of what I find interesting about my story is the fact that I went to China and I didn't know anything about my relatives there at that time, and then I started to feel connected to China, and then I learned about these stories, and I was like, I think there's some connection there. I've had family here. There's like, I think that something drew me here because of that, and I feel connected because it's already in me. It's in my family, in my ancestry, in my
Wow.
DNA.
Yeah, it's in your blood.
Yeah.
So as you got used to the culture there, how would you explain the differences? And I know that this movie actually, ASURA, is kind of like tapping into the cultural differences as well, because
In an interesting way, because it's a story that's very not Chinese at all. It's based on Tibetan Buddhist mythology,
which
but-
is weird because China they're like no religion, right? I mean, like you're
well,
not really supposed to.
That's yes and no. It's just religion is something there that's regulated by the government, so they just make sure that it doesn't get out of hand. So you have to register like a church or any of the faiths. You have to register there. Back to our film, it really has nothing. It's just a story, that is really not that connected to China. It has like a soul in China, but the story is something that I think that Westerners or people who aren't Chinese will relate with a lot more than people in China.
I know it seems like it's like made for Americans.
Yeah.
Kind of, you know?
But it's kind of its own new thing. It's a huge budget movie, but it's in Chinese. But I've always thought that I think this is the first movie that China's made that people outside of China that's in Chinese, that people will watch and be like really interested in because of the fight scenes and the epic scenery, and it's kind of like the reverse of why big budget Hollywood films are doing well there. I think it'll be something that'll open up the channels of not just Chinese content, but people being open to world content in other languages, and kind of seeing that there's other good content from other places that's not necessarily what we're used to, but it's still like amazing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Just open it up a little bit more to different types of societies and cultures.
Yeah.
I think Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon did pretty well over here, and that's the one where they also spoke Chinese throughout the movie.
Right. Yeah.
And it still did very well.
Yeah.
So that's a good example.
Right.
And they had a lot of amazing flying fight scenes and stuff like that.
Right. And I've said that this movie is kind of like the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon mixed with Lord of the Rings or Avatar. So it's kind of that feel.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there's way more effects, and like it's got so much more going on in this movie.
Yeah. Well, it's a unique IP. It's completely new. There's never been anything like it. So.
Is it based on a? Oh, we have to take another quick break. They just gave me the signal.
Oh man.
We ran out of time. So we'll be right back with actor Matthew Knowles. Welcome back to the Red Booth Show. I'm here with actor Matthew Knowles in the new movie ASURA, and so we were just talking about that. And let's get a bit more into the story about ASURA. I know that obviously it's huge special effects, but it's got Tibetan culture and Buddhist culture, or Buddhist.
Not really. It just has
story.
that as the kind of the core of what started the story, and it's written by our director. The concept came from him, and it's just a fascinating new world. Basically, what it is ASURA is the evil king, right? And so he has to
This is the
find
guy with
his
the three faces?
yes, the three-faced king, right?
Okay.
And he is trying to find his third self, which died, so that he can be reunited with it, and then he can be all powerful again. And so he's searching for this reincarnated self, which turns out to be Rui, which is a 17-year-old kid played by Wu Lei, Leo Wu. So the kid goes with him to be reunited, and then the rebels go and try to kill the kid before he can reunite. And I play one of the rebels named Rawa, who's basically the biggest and strongest of the rebels, kind of the equivalent to Hercules. And we're demigods, so we're like,
You have
flying.
powers.
Yeah, we have powers, super strength, have a big battle axe, and towards the middle of the movie, the kid Rui has to decide if he wants to join the king or he wants to join us and fight against himself. And he joins us, and then we'll see what happens. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's a pretty, it's a hero story. It's epic scale, and it's something that people can relate with, I think.
Oh, yeah. It looks really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you said, Game of Thrones has a huge following here. People have made comments about that being similar in a way, but I think it's its own thing for sure, And
Yeah.
the director, you said, wrote the story?
The concept was from him, right?
Well, didn't he come from an action,
He did.
He's a stunt coordinator, kind of, a
Yeah.
stunt planner?
Yeah, well,
But
he
then-
started out as a stunt actor, and then he
Right.
moved to stunt coordination, stunt
Yeah.
directing. He directed second units. He worked in Hollywood for like 20 years.
Amazing.
But this is his directing debut.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
He came from all of that. So it's kind of cool because he's bringing this whole, fighting and knowledge about fighting into the movie, which I think is
Right.
great.
Right.
I've seen that happen with other directors as well, where they go from being fight choreographers to actually directing movies, and
Yeah.
the movies are amazing
Yeah.
fight movies.
Yeah.
So I'm sure this is going to be an amazing fight movie.
Right.
But the fact that he actually came up with the story is really interesting. I mean, he's not basing it on some book.
No. He's been mulling over this concept for years, and he hired some writers to put it together and make it into script form.
Wow. And then he convinced somebody over there that it was time to make the movie.
He did.
He did a good job, I have to
know,
say.
I know.
So this is his first movie, and it's the biggest movie that China has ever put out.
That's correct.
Budget-wise and
Right. Domestic film, yeah.
domestic film.
Yeah.
So 112 million, I
I think
think.
it's 118,
118.
something like that, yeah.
$118 million movie. And here's the star of the movie. Well, you're one of the big stars in the movie.
Yeah.
And you also...
Rawa.
You're Rawa. That's right. Which hopefully we'll get to see over here in the U.S.
Yeah. I want everyone to see it, I think that they'll really enjoy it,
Yeah.
And it's coming out next year, early next year. So look
Right.
forward to.
That's right. So I wanted to talk about this because it
Okay.
did just get released
Yeah.
in China.
Yeah, it had some controversy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like if you Google ASURA...
Big controversy.
Big controversy. If you Google ASURA,
Right.
you'll see that it was released and then they pulled it or whatever. So it was actually put out in theaters and then they took it out right away.
Right. So in unprecedented fashion, it came out for 3 days, and then for the first time ever, the producers of the film pulled it out of the theaters, which never happened before. And they claimed it was bad timing, some bad marketing, and they wanted to re-edit it and re-release it this coming year.
Yeah, well, I was really wanting to see a copy of this movie because I'm like, well, maybe it's probably really amazing, but they just didn't market it enough. Like, I know from being here in LA, I know we didn't hear about it very much over here.
Right.
but it
Until
was-
after that happened.
Right.
And now everyone heard about it.
Of course, now it's got the buzz. But they only released it in China in the first place, right?
Yeah,
So it was
yeah.
only theatrical in China.
Right.
So was there a lot of marketing for it? Was there a lot of buzz?
In China, some, but
Yeah.
not as much as you'd think for the movie of that size. Yeah. So I think they could do better. I
Yeah.
think they will do better. And I think it was kind of unlucky the time it came out. There was just crazy competition in the box office, and they just decided that it'd be better to pull it and re-release it. So I want everyone to see it. I think it'll only get better. They're going to re-edit it. They're only going to fix some of the mistakes that were in there and make it better. So
I heard that's a very Chinese thing to do.
what?
To go and fix it and want to make it better. Like, I don't know. That's the interpretation I was given. Is it
They
true?
like to fix things?
Perfectionists, maybe?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that the more thing you could apply to China is that when problems happen, they solve them very fast. So a lot of times they let problems happen because they know that they can solve them so fast. So why would you prevent it from happening when you can just, snap your fingers and have it solved? Don't waste time preventing problems when they might not ever become problems. So that's a little backwards thinking from what we have here in the West.
That is very different.
Yeah.
But it's good. I like it.
Yeah. China, everything's different. Yeah.
Hey, well, there we go. We get to have a taste of China
Yeah.
with this movie, and a very cool new story for everybody to get to watch. Hopefully
Yeah.
we'll get to see it soon.
Yeah.
And everybody
Yeah.
should definitely go and follow the adventures of Matthew Knowles, who
Right.
I'm sure he also lives in LA now. So
Yep, just back to LA. I have a short film named Poppies that I just filmed that's is doing the festival rounds right now, and it's doing pretty well. So I
Awesome.
hope everyone can check that out.
Okay,
It's really really well produced short film, and I'm very proud of it.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you acting in it, and are you part
Yes, I'm acting in it.
of? Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, go and check out his new short film. I'm sure you'll be getting a lot more roles than just that too here in
Oh,
Los
yeah.
Angeles, if you feel like staying and in America.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for coming and being
Yeah.
on the show, and hope everybody enjoys watching the movie when it comes out. So stay tuned for more news about that. Hey guys, guess who I'm here with again?
Tony the movie guy.
That's right. And he is going to be telling us about all of the latest movies that's coming out this coming week.
Yeah, so this is kind of diverse because obviously we've got Halloween coming up. So the movie Halloween, which it will have been in theaters for probably like a week or so, is one to definitely check out. And then another horror remake is Suspiria. Have you heard about that?
I don't know.
It's a classic horror film from the 70s. The cast, to me, is what makes this appealing. It's got Tilda Swinton, Chloe Grace Moretz, Dakota Johnson. So that's coming out right in time for Halloween as well. And then completely different, but I love this movie. And the fact that they're making a third one is Johnny English Strikes Again. Have you seen the other films with Rowan Atkinson, Mr. Bean?
Oh, yes.
Oh, they're so funny. They're basically like a James Bond spoof.
Right.
Anyway, they're making
It's
a
so
third
awkward.
one. And so funny, though.
I know.
So Johnny English Strikes Again is the third one coming out. Look, he's a national treasure in England. He truly is. So that's it for films. And then on Blu-ray and DVD, Ant-Man and the Wasp with Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly. That was a really fun movie. Just came out a few months ago. You can see it, on iTunes, Blu-ray, and DVD now. That's what we've got for Tony the Movie Guy.
Awesome. Thanks, Tony. And also, don't forget to go and check out his podcast on Apple, iTunes.
Apple Podcasts, iTunes.
Apple Podcast, iTunes, and you can hear his much longer versions of his reviews of movies as well.
Yeah, we do episodes on all kinds of movie genres and topics. It's lots of fun, so check it out.
Cool. Thanks for being here.
Always a pleasure.